Every judgment creates a limitation in your awareness of something greater. And that is the quote of the day. Welcome back to the Quote of the Day show. I'm your host, Sean Croxton of SeanCroxton.com. Thanks for tuning in once again. Today's speaker is Dr. Dain Heer. He is the author of Being You, Changing the World. And today he's talking about remaining open to all possibilities, because we get so caught up in what's right and what's wrong. We get caught up in our judgments, and due to those judgments, we tend to limit the possibilities of our lives. And so you can learn more about him at drdainheer.com. And here's Dr. Dain.
Trust me. Okay, so what is consciousness? Consciousness is where everything exists and nothing is judged. Now, just ponder that for a moment, okay? There are a lot of people who are speaking about consciousness now. In fact, there are some people who are saying it's the new mainstream. Now, what they're talking about is they're saying, hey, we've discussed and talked about spirituality for many, many, many years, and the conversation is now switching over to that of consciousness. Except in the conversations about it, nobody has a definition of it. So this is the definition that we recognize sort of most closely starts to embrace and encompass what the possibilities are. Imagine if everything could exist and nothing be judged. In other words, you see somebody and you don't go through that mental thing of, oh, they look like this, they feel like this, they're dressed like this. Instead, you just go, hi, and you can receive everything they are in that moment. If we could manage to consider the possibility for a moment of having everything come into our lives with no judgment, we could choose whatever we wanted, not based on right and wrong. See, what's happening currently in our business world is we are trying to judge what's right so we create it, and judge what's wrong so we don't create it. What that does is it puts us into a paradigm of right and wrong, rather than what are the possibilities beyond right and wrong. See, one of the crazy simple tools for creating consciousness is to start asking questions. What happens for most of us from the time we were little kids is we were taught that what you need to do is find what's right and create that, and don't do the wrong stuff. Do the right stuff, don't do the wrong stuff. Now, I know you don't have that here in Sweden. But over in the United States, there's a lot of that going on. And in some other countries like France, I mean, they have it, really. But I know it's not here in Sweden. Do you get what I'm talking about? You know the energy that I'm talking about, where you've been taught to judge what's right and what's wrong, right? And so if we're truly going to create a change on our planet, if we're truly going to create a change in our businesses, if we're truly going to create a change in our lives, one of the biggest, easiest things that you can do is get over your judgments of everything. Okay, I said it's the biggest and easiest. I lied. It's not actually the easiest. It is one of the biggest things you can do, though. So what happens? See, for anything you judge, nothing that doesn't match that judgment can come into your world. Whoa, wait a minute. What? I thought judgment was a way to create more. No, judgment puts you into, I can only have this, and that's it, and nothing else can come into your world. So, have you ever had on a personal note, have you ever had a friend that you were friends with, and when you were a little kid probably, or a teenager, or last week, anyway, a friend that you were friends with, and they had a problem with somebody else, and they told you about it, and you're like, well, I'm going to stick up for my friend. I'm going to just show everybody, I'm going to not like this person. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, they got over it, and they were friends with this person, and you're left wondering why you're still judging them. Does that make sense? That was a really dumb example, but that's the one that was in my head right now. That's what happens with judgment, see. You can't see the other possibilities that exist when you're judging. See, every judgment creates a limitation in your awareness of something greater. Every judgment creates a limitation in your awareness of something greater. Your enthusiasm, your excitement, your joy trump judgment every single time. So, you see these little guys? Now, it's weird because you look at it and you're like, wow, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. That, I think, describes it more than anything else. So what am I suggesting that you do? Well, this whole judgment thing, even notice I talk about it and it kind of goes, because that judgment is there. So let's do this. All the judgments you've had of you since you walked into this room today. Now think about it. How does that work? Well, you come into a room like this and you're like, okay, I'm going to receive some consciousness and some possibilities. I'm going to check out what people are doing. But then you're like, oh man, am I doing enough? Am I being enough? Wow, this guy went and was silent for a year. damn. Seriously, I mean, how many of you went, holy cow? No way. This guy and this lady, sweet, beautiful people, silent for a year. This guy was being famous, and he went off and decided he was going to be spiritual because that's what he knew needed to be created in the world. Those should be inspirations. Instead, what we do a lot of times is we're a little inspired, and then we're a lot in judgment of us for not doing and being enough. Does that make sense? If that were to change, everything you've ever perceived that was an inspiration would enliven you, would create that enthusiasm and excitement, and would open up your world to more choices. I apologize, I get a little excited sometimes. Okay, so what happens is, if you see these guys up here, and then you look at Alfred too, and he's like, hey, you know what? And you know his story about, I want to bring more to the world. If we didn't have any judgment of us or them, we could have all that inspiration, and it could come into our lives and change our world. So everything that doesn't allow you to be that inspired, everything that doesn't allow you to recognize that anything anybody says here, if you just extract the judgment of it, you can have the possibility of it. Will you now let it go, please? Thank you. Okay.
All right. Insightful stuff from Dr. Dain Heer. I listened to that clip several times one day on one of my daily walks. And it's a trip because I started thinking about the things I make right and the things I make wrong. I'm thinking about the judgments that I have about certain things. And I'm going to myself, where do these judgments come from? And really, our judgments come from our beliefs and how we see the world. But our beliefs, a lot of the times, aren't really our beliefs. They're beliefs from somebody else that we encountered early in our life who handed them down to us. So it's a trip how a lot of our beliefs really came from somebody else, and we really didn't have any say in it. And so I think it's really important to stop ourselves when we get caught on right and wrong and in judgments and say, okay, why do I believe this? And when you understand that that belief didn't really start with you, it kind of helps you to unwind it. And so you can remove the right and the wrong and the judgments and open up the possibilities in your life. And so again, that was great stuff from Dr. Dain Heer. He's got something coming up for you. It's a live class going on in Australia, but you don't have to be in Australia. It's called Being You, Changing the World. It's going down November 18th through 25th. If you can't make it to Australia, you can attend via live stream right there online on your phone or your computer, on your tablet, wherever. And if you want to learn more about that, go to drdainheer.com/Australia 2016. That's DR Dain, that's DAIN, Heer, HERR.com/Australia 2016. I will see you tomorrow with another quote of the day. Thanks for tuning in.